This video is brought to you by the Magic Candle Company. Visit magiccandlecompany.com or use the link in the description and use offer code OFFHAND at checkout to save 15% off of your entire order. What makes an attraction iconic? What makes a ride sacred? The answer will be different depending on who you ask. For me, it's the Haunted Mansion. If they ever move this or take it out, I'm gonna cry. They can change it, they can shift things around, all of that completely fine. If they ever bulldoze it and put something else there, like a Monsters Inc. land, I'll lose my mind. And after spending some time online this week, I was surprised to find out that people are actually very distraught about the closure of Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully to the Rescue at California Adventure. For them, this ride is a classic. It's sacred. Which raised the question in my mind, what makes a ride a classic? Why were some people more torn up about the closure of Mike and Sully to the Rescue than they were for, say, Muppet Vision or the Rivers of America? What's the difference between these two attractions? What rides are considered untouchable and which are just, a footnote when they get replaced by something eventually? I'm aiming to answer that question in this video. What makes a ride a classic and what makes it untouchable? And I'm going to explain what I mean by untouchable here in a second. Now, in the past, I've made my fair share of charts and graphs to help explain what I mean to you, the viewer, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on inside my head that I just need to write down, or else it's going to make no sense. Like this chart that I made of how every Disney attraction in all of the Disney parks all over the world canonically take place within the same universe and how they all connect with each other. Or this chart right here, where I talked about how people are usually upset when Disney announces a new attraction or a new land replacing an old one, but usually the new one turns out to be better. And I thought that the Cars in Frontierland expansion broke this chart because I did not think it was going to be better. Perhaps I've treated you too harshly, Cars in Frontierland. You're looking better. Better. Not perfect, but better. So I'm going to make another chart today, explain to you what makes a classic attraction, what makes a beloved attraction, and how these attractions can sort of be elevated to legendary status and to some people be untouchable. Sure, you can change out the odd thing here or there, but if you were to completely bulldoze this ride, if you were to tear it to the ground and build something new on its place, that would be seen as heresy. And I know Disneyland's not meant to be a museum, it's supposed to grow and change as long as there's creativity in the world. But I think that there are some classic attractions that do deserve to stay, and they showcase new technology, so it's not necessarily a museum. The Bride in the Haunted Mansion is a perfect example of this. So let's talk about first about what makes a classic attraction. Classic means older, vintage, nostalgic, right? Now, not every old attraction is immediately a classic, okay? I don't know who would refer to Superstar Limo as a classic. I'm sure people might ironically do that, but to say it's a Disney classic, you ask the average person about Superstar Limo, they're not going to know what you're talking about. Space Mountain, things like Pirates of the Caribbean, these are classic Disney rides. People outside our, mega Disney fan sphere, me and you, this is our sphere, people outside of it know about Space Mountain generally. They know about Pirates of the Caribbean, whether that be the movie or the ride. But I think there's another sort of subcategory of classics, rides that aren't exactly as well known as things like the Haunted Mansion and Big Thunder Mountain, but still sort of proved themselves as mainstays in the parks. Things like the carousels, both at Magic Kingdom and Disneyland. Those are Disney Parks classics. Or the railroad, specifically the Disneyland Railroad, but also the Walt Disney World Railroad. Those are classics. They might not have a wider fan base outside of Disney. They might not have immediate name recognition, but they've been around for an extremely long time, since park opening in those cases, and they still prove to be very popular both with repeat visitors and first-time people who may never have visited a Disney park in their lives. So for our first chart, what makes a classic? I think age, popularity, and enjoyability are three very important aspects as to what makes a classic ride. Now, you don't necessarily have to have all three of these to be considered a classic. It certainly does help. But on a ride-by-ride basis, having even just one of these might cement you as a classic. So I would say, for example, the Jungle Cruise is a certified classic. It's an older ride. It's very popular, especially at Walt Disney World. Those lines get really long. And it's extremely enjoyable and rewritable. It's a classic. It has all three. However, there are newer classics, ones that have that enjoyability and that popularity, but don't have the age. The Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, I think, is a wonderful example of a new Disney Parks classic. It's extremely enjoyable, and it's very Lord, it's very popular. And if you were to remove Seven Dwarfs Mine Train from Fantasyland at the Magic Kingdom in exchange for, I don't know, a slow-moving Fantasyland-style dark ride through the story of Snow White instead of a roller coaster, there will probably be some people questioning that choice, some people up in arms about it. A classic without the popularity might be something like the Casey Jr. Circus Train. It has the rewritability and the enjoyment of seeing Fantasyland, and it's an opening day attraction, so that would be a classic. You can sort of mix and match what of these three you want as part of what your definition of a classic would be, but I think this is the safest way of defining one. Now, there's a reason I separated beloved attractions from classic attractions at the beginning of this video. Although the word is very similar, both of those words mean very similar things, they are just a little bit different. A classic attraction is widely regarded by everybody as sort of a classic. Maybe the Rivers of America might not be a classic, maybe it is, but for sure, things like the Haunted Mansion, things like Pirates of the Caribbean and the Jungle Cruise, those are classics. You can't really argue that. When it comes to beloved attractions, it's very much more of a personal thing, your opinion on what a ride is, if it's good or if it's bad. I personally think Tron Light Cycle Run at the Magic Kingdom is a beloved attraction. I absolutely love it because being in that world, experiencing the music and the visuals of being in the grid, it makes me feel so happy. So I really love Tron Light Cycle Run. It's a beloved ride to me. However, others might not feel that way. They might love Cosmic Rewind over at Epcot, or even, as I was talking about at the very beginning of this video, Mike and Sully to the Rescue over at California Adventure. Some people really, really love that ride, and they're sad to see it go to make way for Pandora. So a classic attraction is sort of objective. You can look at all of these things that make this attraction a classic, and you can't really argue that. Beloved attractions are ones that you can argue aren't a classic or are a classic, because it's your personal opinion. Don't worry, I got a graph for this too. So what makes an attraction beloved? The first and most important thing is how you, yes you, my friend watching this video right now, how you feel about it. I also think an established or maybe smaller fandom helps with making a ride beloved. This includes rides that are tied to like the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, or maybe some bigger narrative. Having some sort of fan base around a ride certainly helps. And then, of course, the popularity of the ride, just like the classics. Now, it's not exactly the same situation as what makes a classic, where you can interchange one or two or all three of the reasons to make a ride a classic. At the end of the day, what it really comes down to is what you think of the ride. I think Muppet Vision 3D, it could be argued is a classic. I would personally call it a classic, but some might not. However, you can't argue that Muppet Vision 3D wasn't a beloved attraction, right? And we're all gonna miss it now that it's gone. So I hope that sort of clarifies the difference in what makes a classic and a beloved attraction different, and how they are also similar, because they are similar in a lot of ways, but they do differ in a couple of ways. But now, putting those two charts, those two concepts together, we arrive at the thesis for this video. My main idea, the main point I want to get across. If a ride is both a classic and beloved, both at the same time, does that make this ride untouchable, unteardownable? I'm gonna go to the Haunted Mansion specifically for this one, because it's my favorite ride, probably of all time at the Disney parks, and is a bona fide classic, and it is beloved. It has a fan base. It has many people all over the world, not just here in America, who love the Haunted Mansion. Sure, they can tweak scenes, make changes here and there, the bride, the stretching room, different scenes in the graveyard. They can change things, sure. Is the Haunted Mansion, for lack of a better term, I guess, sacred? The literal dictionary definition, regarded with great respect and reverence by a particular group or individual. When you step through those wrought iron gates, are you on holy ground? Not literally, but figuratively? Now, it takes a very special kind of attraction to be unbulldozable. You can't have every other ride be something that's sacred and something that you don't really want to touch because fans would get upset. But there's a reason you didn't really hear a ton of fan outcry when Disney announced that Chester and Hester's Dino-Rama would be going away to build a brand new Encanto dark ride. That's kind of an objective upgrade, and Chester and Hester's Dino-Rama, while it has its fans, it isn't really time-tested. It's not a classic, it's not super enjoyable. It was Carnival Games and then Primeval Whirl shut down, and then you only had Triceratops Spin, which Triceratops Spin is great, but Dumbo exists. Actually, over at the Magic Kingdom, they got 2 Dumbos. They got 2 Dumbos there. So it's a bit of a different conversation, but if you were to completely remove Pirates or the Haunted Mansion or Space Mountain, or I'm trying to think of more Disney World examples, perhaps even Spaceship Earth or Test Track even. Does Test Track count? Test Track, I think, is kind of on the border. Then you'd have people being angry because this is a bona fide classic that has a lot of fans. You don't want to take out the old good stuff. Or do you? Because that's what I thought the Rivers of America were. But I think I was wrong. When Disney announced that they were going to be filling in the Rivers of America in order to make room for a Cars-themed expansion at the Magic Kingdom, I was really upset. A lot of people were really upset. I thought that they were, at this point, paving over a classic in order to build something not nearly as good. I have since changed my stance on that a little bit. However, I thought that my sentiment would be the prevailing popular outcome, the popular opinion. Disney announcing that they were taking out the Rivers of America at a Disneyland-style park is like Disney announcing that they're taking out the castle and replacing it with, I don't know, an Avengers headquarters attraction or an Avengers headquarters building. Now, the Avengers are cool. I like Avengers Campus. It needs more shade, but I do enjoy the land. Does it belong at the end of Main Street USA, though? Does it deserve to replace the castle? Absolutely not. If you asked me, that would be a downgrade. However, the further I looked online, the more opinions I got a hold of on comments on TikToks and Twitter and Blue Sky even. A lot of people were for this change. They were excited to cash in their Lightning Lane and ride another They were excited for more explorable space in the Magic Kingdom, more walkable space, and more attractions to ride. That was more capacity. The Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island and the Liberty Bell, they don't really have super high capacity. They're more to enjoy the park, to sightsee, and to enjoy being at the Magic Kingdom. And that's what I thought made them great. A lot of other people thought that made them boring. However, I do think you have to hit that nice middle ground. Not every attraction needs to be a thrill ride, a trackless dark ride, or a roller coaster. A boring ride sometimes is necessary. I put boring in quotes because a boring ride for some people might be the best ride ever at any of the Disney parks. Crying out loud, you go through a greenhouse for others. And that's not to say that the people excited for Cars replacing the Rivers of America were wrong back then, and that's not to say that I was right back then either. Where I saw the Rivers of America as a time-tested, enjoyable attraction, others just saw it as an old ride. It wasn't exactly popular, and for them it wasn't exactly enjoyable. Maybe the Rivers of America were a beloved attraction, not a classic. Or maybe they are a classic. It depends on who you ask, but use your own sort of judgment using these 2 charts to figure out what you think the Rivers of America is. And if a ride is both classic and beloved, does it deserve to be ripped out, or should it stay until the planet stops spinning, the sun goes cold, and life on Earth exits existence with not a yell, but a whimper? Hopefully Disney World lasts that long. So what rides are out there that are considered sort of untouchable, like the Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean? I'm sure a lot of you said that, a lot of you thought that as soon as I started talking about this, and I mentioned them lots throughout this video, and I think those are sort of the markers for what we would consider an attraction to be sort of untouchable, unbulldozable, as I said. Not that you can't change things out, not that you can't change scenes or queues or even facades, but no rethemes, no teardowns. Another one I mentioned was Space Mountain. I think you could change the track, you could change a little bit of the theming, update some stuff in there, but taking out Space Mountain would probably be seen as a bad move. Then you get onto things like the People Mover. If they were to remove the People Mover at the Magic Kingdom and just completely tear it down, I don't know why they would do that, or if they could even do that with how much it goes through all of the other buildings, but would that be considered a bad move? Would that be a downgrade? Because anything they put in the place of, say, the Mansion or Pirates would be a downgrade. I don't think you can get much better than that. They're classics and they're beloved. So what other attractions fit this bill? Obviously, I guess the Rivers of America do not. Big Thunder Mountain I could see also fitting in with that sort of magical quadrilogy, Space Mountain, Pirates, Haunted Mansion, and Big Thunder. maybe that would go in there. A lot of people would have argued Splash Mountain, and Splash Mountain did get rethemed. It's still technically there. It is just a different theme. But these Untouchable attractions, they don't get rethemed. The Haunted Mansion and Pirates haven't ever been rethemed. Like I said, you can change out scenes, you can upgrade some scenes, you can put some new animatronics in, but once you change the Haunted Mansion to, I don't know, an inside-out attraction, I don't know how they'd make that work, I don't know how the theming would work, but it's just for the sake of argument. That's when the downgrade happens. That's when bad things happen. They did, however, retheme Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, so it clearly wasn't quite on the level of rides like Mansion and Pirates. Now, there's one last graph I want to introduce to you all, my friends, and it's the scariest graph of all, so brace yourselves, buckle up, because this one might frighten a few people. What makes a Disney attraction untouchable? The answer to that, it's frightening, I know, but the answer is whether or not Disney thinks it is. The Disney Imagineers, the bean counters in charge of how much Lightning Lane is making per month, that is who has the final call on whether or not a ride is untouchable. Is it merchandisable enough? The Mansion certainly is at this point. Is it selling enough Lightning Lanes? The Mansion certainly is. Is it high capacity? Yeah, Pirates and the Haunted Mansion both very high capacity. And the fact that they just so happen to be classic and beloved attractions adds to that. It doesn't make it less likely that they're going to bulldoze the Haunted Mansion. It just makes it easier for them not to, if that makes sense. Why get rid of the Mansion when you can just change out the odd scene here and there? You're still making money off of the Lightning Lanes. You're still sending people into a high capacity attraction and selling merchandise. Why get rid of it? It's cheaper to keep it there. And so I think that's what's really scary to people, is that at the end of the day, without any notice, Disney could drop a blog post announcing that your favorite attraction could be going away forever in order to make way for a Buzz Lightyear attraction or a Monsters, Inc. roller coaster. That would never happen though. Because they deemed your favorite attraction an attraction that is beloved to you, not a classic, not untouchable, not beloved to a bunch of other people. They can find more enjoyment, more money, and more merchandise in another property, in another version of that attraction. And that's a little bit sad, right? Because you never know when the People Mover, or when Muppet Vision, or when the Rivers, or when, I guess, maybe Soarin' over California might go away. I think it really teaches the lesson that we have to appreciate what we have at the Disney parks while we have it, especially this last weekend with Muppet Vision, seeing the camaraderie and all the friends gathering around and watching it one last time. That was really neat to watch. And I'm not saying that Monsters, Inc. is going to be bad. I have to say that in every video where I talk about the death of Muppet Vision. I think Monsters, Inc. looks good, but it comes with the expense of Muppet Vision 3D being removed. And for some people, that's a deal breaker. So while we still have the People Mover, while we still have Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters or Star Tours, if those are your favorite rides, give them a ride. Head to the gift shop afterwards. You don't even necessarily need to buy anything. Just look around. Do what you can to support your favorite attraction. It's why I never stop talking about Living with the Land on this channel. When I first started my channel all the way back in 2016, nearly 10 years ago, I still loved Living with the Land back then, but I was worried that Disney would someday close it with new Epcot on the horizon and attendance way down at Living with the Land. It was hardly ever over a 5 or 10 minute wait. I wanted to bring attention to this masterpiece of a ride, and it seems to have caught on. I don't know if I'm the only one who's done this necessarily. There are a lot of people out there who have done their part, believe me, in spreading the good word of Living with the Land, and now it's got its own sort of dedicated fan base. Living with the Land, I'm rope dropping that every time, and some of the cast members there know me, and they know that Living with the Land is indeed the best ride at Walt Disney World, and if anybody says otherwise, they're trying to mislead you. So I call on you now to do the same with your favorite attraction, with your favorite ride. Rally your friends, gather your fandom, and ride your rides. Spread the word. And I suppose just hope and pray to God that another IP, Disney movie, Pixar movie, Marvel movie doesn't come along that perfectly fits the vibe of your favorite attraction. Because if it does, then let's just say that I'm kind of shocked with how long Figment has lasted, especially with Inside Out there, you know, making a lot of money. No rides seem to be sacred. There's nothing you or I can do to prevent a ride that we love from being bulldozed one day, potentially. You know, some rides are more safe than others, but you never really know. But if you want to carry a piece of your favorite ride or your favorite resort or your favorite experience from the Disney parks around with you, maybe even to your own home or even your own office, you can with today's sponsor, Magic Candle Company. That's their logo, by the way. Say you're a bit of a Tiki Room fan, like myself. Magic Candle Company has you covered with wax melts, candles, and room sprays that smell just like the enchanted Tiki Room. I'm not kidding, by the way, this is real. Now, you know I would never advertise anything to you. I would never show anything off on my channel unless I myself was a believer. But my friends, when I tell you that this crackle wick candle smells eerily like the Tiki Room, I'm not lying to you. And you can get it for 15% off or your entire order of more candles or room sprays by using the offer code OFFHAND at checkout, and you get to save that amount of money. It's quite the deal. Or maybe, for those of you who are more into the piratey side of things, the newly redesigned Pirate's Life candle can help you feel like you're riding through the Blue Bayou, descending the waterfall, and entering the caves of Puerto Dorado. That's the island where Pirates of the Caribbean takes place. Makes your office smell like Pirates of the Caribbean, essentially. As I mentioned, though, it's not just candles. Even though it's called the Magic Candle Company, they offer air fresheners, hand soaps, even diffuser oils or wax melts, room sprays. Any way that you want to make your house smell like your favorite Disney resort experiences or attractions, you can. Again, that's offer code OFFHAND at checkout to save 15% off of your entire order. A very big thank you to the Magic Candle Company for sponsoring this video. Now we need to go back to the green screen. I'm just gonna put this down, and we're gonna go right over here. Perfect, it's like we never left. So my friends, I want you to tell me in the comments down below what your favorite beloved attraction is, and if you consider it a classic also. And I feel like in some cases you're gonna have to make some really good points. Like there's weird attractions that you would never think of as essential beloved classics. Like Dumbo, I think, is a really good example of one. Like I mentioned, the carousel, the railroad. There's other rides though that might be considered classics that I haven't even talked about in this video. So please let me know down in the description below. And remember, ride Living with the Land. Don't ask any questions about it. Just go ride Living with the Land, and if you see any sort of Living with the Land merch at Disney, make sure to buy it, because you have to support your local Living with the Lands, because it's important that we never lose this attraction. Hey there, everybody. I hope you enjoyed watching this week's video. I certainly enjoyed making it. Sort of a little scientific rant slash breakdown. Not really scientific, but a structured rant, right? I made a chart, so it's structured. It makes sense if you don't put too much thought into it. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button. And if you're new around here and you want more videos like this one, more analysis videos, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you would like to follow me at my Patreon over at patreon.com/offhanddisney and get early access to videos, you can. And it's just $1 a month. You can pledge more or less depending on how you're feeling at the time. But the base level is just $1 a month. It gets you access to most of the perks. However, if you'd rather follow me for free, you can absolutely do that. It is Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. Those are the social medias that I am a part of. You can follow me. I'm at Offhand Disney on all of those websites. Just makes it a bit easier for you to find me. Everybody, thank you all so much for watching this video. I will see you here, same time next week. Like always, baby. Goodbye.